Hey guys, I'm sure you've seen our dog Caden, who's over there. He's accidentally, I think, made it into a lot of our videos just because we live in a tiny house on wheels, so that's bound to happen, I guess. And we get lots of questions about him and what happens when, we leave him in the van or when we cross the border, what kind of medications he's on whenever we're traveling. So we're going to cover all of those questions and a lot more in this video.
We got Caden when he was just a little puppy. He was only 8 weeks old, and now he's actually 8, which you would never guess with his high energy. He's a Nova Scotia duck-tawling retriever, and they're known for their high energy. So that is something that we make sure we accommodate every single day. When we were getting ready to go on this trip, we wanted to make sure that he was taken care of and that everything was good for him. So there's a lot of things that we thought about and planned for to make sure that this trip went well for him.
The first thing that you have to do is talk to your vet about your travel plans, how long you're going to be on the road, and maybe like a loose schedule of the places that you're going to be, because as far as like ticks and fleas and heartworm goes, we had to make sure that we covered all of those bases. And our local vet knows Caden, and they're a great vet. It took us a few years to find a really good vet for Caden that can deal with everything for him. And they have this open door policy, I guess, with us, that we can actually call them with any questions or concerns that we have. And also, if we had to go see a vet down in the States, we could also call them before we went there as well.
There were a couple things our vet recommended that we do right away for Caden to get ready to go. The first thing was she gave us a bill of health for Caden, so that's a clean bill of health. She gave him a rabies vaccine and a distemper vaccine. So we needed rabies to cross the border, and it had to be within, I believe, 6 months of us crossing over. The other thing that she gave us was Bravecto, which is a flea and tick medicine. So he gets one chewable tablet every 3 months. And then he's also on heart guards. So he gets one of these every month for the duration of our trip. And the reason that we made sure that we had these for him is because some of the diseases that are down here in the south we don't have.
The other two things that the vet made sure that we had whenever we crossed the border was a general antibiotic for him and an anti-nausea pill. So those two things we haven't had to use yet, but It's just a precautionary thing to make sure that we had it just in case it was hard to get to or we were in a remote area and we needed those things. Whenever we crossed the border into the States, they were looking for that piece of paper that had his rabies and distemper and clean bill of health. But also, you just have to know that whenever you do cross, if they, end up searching the vehicle, you're going to have to take your dog out, and then they have kennels set up outside for the dogs. It's not something to be concerned about, but just knowing whenever you're crossing the border that that's going to happen.
In terms of day-to-day life in the van with Caden, there are a couple things that make life a little bit easier for us and a little bit easier for Caden. So one thing that we actually found before we left, and this was just by chance, is this water bowl, and it's called a road refresher. So it has this lid on top and then this floating disc. So this actually sits on top of the water, and the water comes through these little holes, and then the ring sits on top of that. So this can be full of water, and the floating disc is protecting the water from spilling out, so this thing never spills when we're on the road, which means that he has fresh water all the time.
Since we live in a small space and on the road, we knew that we had to downsize the amount of toys that Caden had. So right now he only has 2. And we were selective with the type of toys that we were going to get for him. So the first one is called a Boomy. It's made by Westpaws. This thing is indestructible. As far as Caden goes, he can't rip this thing apart. And it's a good fetch toy. It floats, and you can play tug of war a little bit with it as well. And then the second one also floats. And this one you can use as a fetch toy as well. It's made by Chuckit, which is a well-known company. And it's just like a little kind of chewy frisbee. So both of them last a long time, over a couple of years already. Actually, he's had the Boomy for 4 or 5 years.
Since he was a baby.
So that's the reason why we held on to these 2, and they can pack away easy, and he loves them.
We also have a bumper bed for Caden, which sits in between the driver and passenger seat. So that's a really great spot. Caden likes to sleep there when we're driving, and then the bumper bed gives him little pillows, so he enjoys that bed.
We get a lot of questions about how we keep the van clean while having Caden in here. And we have a really washable floor. It's a vinyl floor, and we sweep it probably every day, I think, but it only takes a couple minutes, and then we just give it a little bit of a wipe down. But we try to clean Caden as much as we can before he even gets into the van. So we do have a bag shower that has a foot pump attached to it, and we can pressurize it to spray Caden down a little bit and wash him up before he comes into the van. Also, if he's walking around in an urban area, like on pavement or grimy roads, then we do wipe down his paws because it could have, contaminants or something like salts or something like that.
The other thing that we do if we're out in like natural areas and we're coming back into the van and there might be like little stickers or things stuck to his hair, we will brush him out before he comes in to get rid of most of those, which was more a problem when we were in the desert, but it's definitely something that we keep an eye on and do if we notice it needs to be done.
Yeah, and also I guess that goes hand in hand with if you're in an area that's known to have ticks or fleas or something like that, then we will do a tick check on him and give him a brush out before he gets into the van as well.
One thing that we were really surprised about when we got to the States was that dogs are not really allowed in national parks except on pavement. So essentially they're not really allowed in the parks at all, which is a problem for us if we're wanting to stay in those parks and do a lot of adventuring there. But what we found ourselves doing shortly after coming to the States was searching out hikes that we could do with Caden that were just outside the park boundaries. And then if we do want to go into the parks, we would make sure that we take him for a walk first and then get the van set up for us and for him to stay in while we go and experience some of these cool spots.
And the number one question that we get regarding Caden is what happens whenever we have to leave him, like Vanessa was saying, in the van for a little bit longer, let's say an hour or two. And there's a few things that we do. The most important thing, I guess, is to make sure that he stays cool. We do live in a van that's big enough for him to roam around. He actually has probably half a dozen places that he can lay down. So for him to stay cool, we make sure that his water dish is always topped up with cold water before we leave. We close all of the curtains in the van. We put Reflectix or reflective material in all of the windows. So we have custom cut ones for the two back windows here, and then we have sunshades with reflective material that go into the front. We open our tip out windows in our kitchen, and then we turn on the fan on high. So that will circulate air coming in through the side and vent it out the top. We found that better, I guess, to circulate air that way and keep it cool. And then also we can park in the shade, and that makes a huge difference. As far as keeping the van cool.
We've been lucky so far in that sense because we haven't really hit any extremely hot weather, and when we do hit that weather, then we'll be making adjustments.
Having Caden on the road with us is amazing. As long as you make the considerations before you end up leaving on your trip, then it's probably going to be one of the most fun and enjoyable experiences about traveling in the van. He gets us out every day on some kind of adventure or hike. He gives us unconditional love and greets us, with so much happiness, I guess, and joy whenever we come back to the van. He cuddles with us, he loves us, and it's amazing to have him on the road.
If you have any more questions about what it's like living on the road with your dog, you can leave those in the comment section below. We're going to link all the products that we mention in the description. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.